What is up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college basketball. And today we are discussing the Thursday, January the 22nd slate. A lot of mid-major games. Before we get started, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like. Those two things help us immensely and get us in front of new viewers. Really just help us continue to do this. We do talk about sides and totals during the breakdown. So if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And if you ever have a request, please leave it in the comments. Right now, we're kind of doing a combination of games that look the best on paper versus games that show the most value in the market. So we got 6 today. We're going to start in the Summit. We'll talk about the Badger game too, don't worry. South Dakota State takes on St. Thomas. This is in the Summit League. Current spread is 7 points in favor of St. Thomas. The total is 155.5. We did take a -6 in favor of St. Thomas last night. No major injuries in this game. South Dakota State, number 187 in the country right now. When we talk about rankings, we will be referencing KenPom. They're just a little more accurate than stuff like the AP. So that is what it is. But they are 10-10. Couple bad losses for this team. They lost to North Dakota, who's number 308 in overtime. Lost to Milwaukee, who's 252. Basically on Milwaukee's home floor. They played at a neutral location in Milwaukee, however. They don't have any top wins in the 200. Their best win is against Merrimack, who's number 209. The strength of schedule is number 239th, and their only 2 road wins were against sub-100 teams. So that's going to be tough for South Dakota State coming into St. Thomas's building, who is number 134 in the country, 15-5, kind of the cream of the crop in the Summit this year. They have some losses, but their only one that's outside the top 200 is to Cal State Fullerton on a neutral floor, and Cal State Fullerton is number 202. Otherwise, top 200 wins for St. Thomas against Northern Colorado and Portland. Their strength of schedule is ranked 292, so they also do not have the most complete body of work. The biggest advantage for South Dakota State in this game is probably their size. They are 155th in height. St. Thomas is 314th. That means rebounding, probably another edge for South Dakota State. 134 versus 304. But both of these teams are very good in defensive rebounding. The difference is South Dakota State attacks the offensive glass a little bit more than St. Thomas. They're also the worst shooting team. More on that a little bit later. But St. Thomas still has good defensive rebounding numbers. They're going to be ceding an advantage here, but hopefully it's not too bad given their positioning. They're pretty sound on that end of the floor. South Dakota State, 136th in effective field goal percentage. They shoot threes at an average rate, but they're not very good at shooting them, 180th. Joe Salyer, he is their best shooter at 40%, but it's a pretty steep drop-off from there. This team uses a lot of pick and rolls and post-ups via their interior. St. Thomas just inherently, the way they play tries to limit that. But the big thing with this team, and really this conference, they're not known for defense. So St. Thomas actually has the 2 best defenders in this conference, Austin Harrow and Nolan Millingsale, but they're still 136th overall, 235th inside, and 238th on the perimeter. It's just not a good defensive conference. But I guess it's better to have the 2 best defenders than anything else, which is a feather in the St. Thomas cap. When St. Thomas is on offense, they're 11th in effective field goal percentage, 2nd in 2-point percent. There's some incongruencies here. You know, this team is very short, but they're number 2 in the country in 2-point percent. They attack the rim, and then they'll kick the ball out to 3-point shooters where they shoot a ton of threes, 55th in the country. This is a pretty good offense overall. Carter Bajekuri is at 39%. Isaiah Johnson, Aragu's at 37. Nick Janowski's at 38% from 3. And South Dakota State's defense is even worse than St. Thomas. They're 232, not really good anywhere. A couple decent guard defenders. St. Thomas should score as much as they want to in this game. Tempo is decent. South Dakota State 170, St. Thomas 120. St. Thomas rarely turns the ball over. They also force the 67th most turnovers. South Dakota State is 156th in turnovers committed. Our model has this just outside 10. So we bet a -6, but you can absolutely play anything through like a 10 according to the model. 7 is in the market right now. I think that number is completely fine. And if you're interested in the projections, that we have for these games. They're available in Discord that's linked below. On top of lines, spreads, totals, team totals, you get player projections. For the major games, books don't always list, some of these mid-majors, but for a game like Wisconsin, Penn State, you're going to get minutes, points, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, you name it, it'll be there for those of you that are interested. Second game, Big Ten clash between Wisconsin traveling to Penn State. Total is 160.5. Spread is 5.5 in favor of the Badgers. We took this at a 4.5, slightly juiced. Still showing a little bit of value on the Wisconsin side. Biggest problem is they're hitting the road. Tibor Mircic has been out for the last 3 games for Penn State, but this Wisconsin team is 15-5. Most of their losses are pretty good. Only one of them is outside the top 50. That was to TCU on a neutral. They only have 2 top 50 wins, but one of them is that Michigan road win where Wisconsin could not miss. That gave them 2 road wins this year. Their strength of schedule is 38th. Penn State, meanwhile, 119th in the country. They are 9-9. Bad losses to Pittsburgh, Maryland, and those are the 2 main ones. They got slaughtered by Pittsburgh, 80-46. Best wins, 168 Harvard, 184 Campbell, 197 Navy. Now, they've returned a couple guys from injury, so maybe they're a little better, but the schedule is 82nd. Their wins are horrible. We'll see. Penn State is pretty tall. I don't really understand how they're 279th in rebounding, being 38th in height. Wisconsin is 10th in height, 89th in rebounding. On paper, this shouldn't be at an advantage, but on paper it is for the Badgers on the glass. Wisconsin's also a pretty good shooting team, 66th in effective field goal. They're kind of decent across the board. They shoot a ton of threes. They're 11th in three-point percent. And they actually have some big guys that can kind of space you out, like Nolan Winter at 35%. It's not amazing, but it's definitely suitable for a guy who is playing your center position, shooting threes. And then Blackwell and Carrington are pretty good. They play in transition more than a lot of Wisconsin teams in the past. Penn State struggles there. They're going to play inside out, use pick and rolls with their bigs. Penn State is awful on defense. They are 226th. They do not have a top 50 defender in the conference, and they are 324th inside, even worse than that from the perimeter. So very, very little faith in this Penn State defense. When Penn State's on offense, 86th in effective field goal. They're not very good at shooting threes, but they can play inside a little bit. They basically attack the rim, have some of their guards finish. Wisconsin's going to limit that. Wisconsin might be 196th in interior defense, but their best defenders, their rim protector, Nolan Winter. Penn State's just outmatched in this game. One spot where Penn State does have an advantage over a lot of teams is turnovers. They force the 63rd most. Wisconsin rarely turns the ball over. They're 22nd in turnovers committed. This is an advantage on paper. Usually, it's not going to be in this game. Wisconsin's 95th in fouls drawn. Penn State is only 43rd in fouls committed. You're just not getting too many peripheral edges. We currently make the number Wisconsin 83.6 to Penn State 77.8. So a little bit of an advantage for Wisconsin, even on the current number. I think this is one you can look at. To the American, South Florida is a 2-point favorite over UAB. Total is 168. No major injuries in this game. South Florida is 81st. And they have a chance to win this conference, man. They're 11-7. Their only losses outside the top 100 are to this very own UAB team, more on that in a second, and to Wichita State. Both of those games were in OT. They've got a pair of top 100 wins. They beat Utah State, who was actually number 32, and then they beat the number 1 team in the conference, Tulsa. So in this first game, it was a foul fest, and of course it went to OT, and the game was close. You get fouls just kind of naturally in that kind of game environment, but both teams fouled 26 times. UAB hit 31 free throws. South Florida hit 23. And that kind of decided the game because South Florida won on the boards. They had a shot percentage advantage, barely. But on top of the free throws, it came down to, missing a few more of those and then turning it over 14 times. That's how they lose. USF has 3 road wins. Strength of schedule is 85th. UAB They're 122nd. Obviously, one of their better wins was against this South Florida team. They also beat High Point. Those are the two teams in the top 100 they've defeated. This team has a couple bad losses. They lost to number 304 Alabama State at home. And then there's a couple that are just outside the top 100, like Middle Tennessee, Troy, and Wichita. But that Alabama State loss is bad. So neither team is particularly tall, both outside the top 250, but both teams are aggressive on the glass, 91st and 60th. No real advantage there. South Florida is 182nd in effective field goal percent. They are the better shooting team. They shoot a lot of three-pointers, 78th in three-point rate. It's basically just Wes Enos and Joseph Pinion there. They play a lot in transition. When that doesn't work, they attack the glass and attack the rim, kicking out to open shooters. UAB is vulnerable in basically every area except the rebounding, and their defense is 125th. They're outside the top 100 everywhere. This could be a problem. Meanwhile, UAB is 264th in effective field goal percentage. This team is horrible at shooting threes, and they don't try. They're 358th in three-point rate. They don't have a single shooter, at least among the main shooters. We'll use a sample size here that's big enough. None of them are above 31%. They either play in transition, they offensive board, and then they play through their bigs. That's not the best style of defense against South Florida, who has the best rim protector in the conference in Isaiah Nelson. South Florida's 94th in total defense, 46th inside. They try to make you shoot threes. That is just not what UAB wants to do. So it's a wild clash of styles here. I will say in the first game, UAB was good at shooting threes, and it's part of the reason they won, but I don't think that is sustainable. Turnovers forced. This favors South Florida by a wide margin. They force way more turnovers. A similar pattern exists for fouls, with South Florida generating more. We'll see. I'm not even sure that matters, though. When you look at, okay, South Florida generates more turnovers. UAB is actually the team that turns it over fewer than any other team in the nation. Like, this is the best team controlling the ball when they have it on offense. So that's probably not a matchup that is going to decide this game. Both teams are really fast, top 70 in pace. Current prediction our model has is South Florida 82.5, UAB 81.3. Instinctively, I want to play South Florida, but it's not enough value for me. We actually show some value on the under at 168. Going to look into this one a little bit more. I'm not sure if it's the best matchup, but I'm kind of worried about UAB scoring. I know I shouldn't be. This game went over 100 points on both sides, albeit in double OT, but we're going to do a little more work on this before playing anything. Going to the CAA, Wilmington is taking on William and Mary. A lot of line movement in this game. William and Mary was a 1-point dog this morning. Now they're a 1.5-point favorite. Totals 156.5. Gavin Walsh has missed the last 4 games for UNC Wilmington. They are 121st and 17-2, albeit on the 357th ranked schedule. They have 6 road wins, but there's only about 8 schedules in the country that are weaker than this. Best win, probably Valpo at 162. Worst loss, definitely Howard at 264. So it's kind of a weird body of work for this team. As far as William and Mary goes, they've played the 216th ranked schedule. They're 12-6. Most of their losses are redeemable outside of maybe Monmouth and Drexel. And part of the problem is a lot of these have come up late. Their top 200 wins are against Bowling Green and Towson, so they don't have a lot of these. As far as stylistics go, it's a big clash of styles. Wilmington is 75th in height, 22nd in rebounding. William and Mary is 321st in height, 262nd in rebounding. That's a huge advantage for Wilmington. But Wilmington also can't shoot, so they are going to be reliant on these boards. They're 202nd in effective field goal percentage. They basically have one shooter, Nolan Hodge. This team attacks the rim. They kick it out for threes. And when that doesn't work, they're going to board. William and Mary is 95th in total defense. They're horrible inside. It's a very lopsided defense, probably the best way to say it. 17th on the perimeter, 297th inside. We'll see how this goes. Conversely, William and Mary is a good shooting team. They are 84th overall, but a lot of that is inside. 40th in two-point defense, 222nd in three-point percentage. Or excuse me, 40th in two-point percentage, 222nd in three-point percentage. They're going to play in transition, try to play through their front court and kick it out as well. Wilmington is 141st in total defense, 83rd inside, 14th on the perimeter. They have a very good rim protector in Patrick Wessler. It's kind of a bad matchup for William and Mary, which we showed value on William and Mary right from the start. Even when they were a 1.5 point underdog, when I woke up this morning, I hesitated, and we made the score 75.7 to 77.9, which suggested, okay, take William and Mary. I was a coward, didn't play the number, and instead was very worried about some of these environmental factors and these stylistic differences, so I hesitated. Now, kind of out of range, don't show any value on Wilmington either. They're on the road too, so this will probably end up being a stay away. There is a bit of value on the under at 156.5, but not anything I plan on playing so far in this game. Couple other, we're going to rapid fire two more, actually have screens made up for them though. North Dakota's taking on Oral Roberts in the Summit. I played Oral Roberts plus a 1.5. This is a very greasy game. It's a pick 'em right now, and the total is 145. Basically, in this game, you have a vastly different strength of schedule between these teams. North Dakota's played just about nobody. Oral Roberts is 104th. As far as the stylistics go, both of these teams are pretty small. Neither of them rebound well. But then you just look at some of the stylistic differences. Oral Roberts has a lot of similar statistics as North Dakota. I won't run through every single one of them, but first and foremost, they're the better defensive team. And then offensively, shooting-wise, these teams are actually similar. What's the big difference between these teams? Oral Roberts is about 150 spots, even more than that, ahead of North Dakota in strength of schedule. So if you're going to poke a hole in what these two teams have done this year, Oral Roberts might actually be a regression candidate positively versus North Dakota because of who they've played. Just don't have those kind of statistics for this North Dakota team. So we'll be on Oral Roberts at a plus 1.5. Pick'em is still fine. Let me pull up the number the model has right now. We currently have this North Dakota 73.5, Oral Roberts 75.6. All right, one more. Eastern Kentucky takes on North Florida. This game is in favor of Eastern Kentucky minus 7.5. The total is 167.5. Tempo is it's above average. I'm not going to say it's aggressive because Eastern Kentucky is 216th. North Florida is 45th. But the big thing in this game, tempo is going to be okay. Both these teams are, for this conference, good on offense. Both top 200, and then both defenses are outside the top 360. Effective field goal, you're talking two teams in the top 170. Pretty good across the board, too. Both these teams in the top 150 3-point percent, and then both teams are horrible on defense, especially on the inside. Rebounding, height, both teams are bad. Big difference in this game, again, strength of schedule. Eastern Kentucky is 198. North Florida, they come in 101. So you have similar teams basically with these statistical profiles, but one is at home and one has played them far more difficult strength of schedule. Now, with that said, you look at these resumes, Eastern Kentucky's 7-12. They actually do have a fair amount of Division I wins. They have 5 of them. Their best one is against 214 Central Arkansas. They came in OT. North Florida, however, they have one Division I win. It is against North Alabama at 355 in the country. That did occur on the road. The only other redeeming quality with this North Florida team is you can go down their resume. They've played fairly close games against a lot of good teams. Number 162, Queens. That was an 89-82 game at home. Lipscomb, that was 82-74. Columbia at 166, that was 90-82. Most of these games, at least among the better teams on your schedule, are competitive in single-digit losses. So there's the potential for North Florida to be a little better than we think. This is a number right here that speaks more than anything else. The plus 7.5 at home for two comparable teams statistically. It's a sidewall play. Don't feel the most comfortable with it, but alas, show quite a bit of value there. That'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, some decent games on the Friday night. But if you have requests, please let me know. Saturday, we will do a video as well, perhaps a live stream again, so watch for that. But until next time, good luck. We will see you later.